Graeme Agars is back with us. Graeme, he did it. He closed it. How pleased are you for this young man, Wyndham Clark?
Yeah, no, it's a good story, really, isn't it? He only broke through for his first win on the PGA Tour 6 weeks ago, and now here he is with the renewed confidence that came from that victory, taking out the US Open, his national championship, and he did it in style when you think about it. He did lead by 3 shots with 4 holes to go, but dropped a couple of shots coming in. But I have to say, calmly 2-putted from 60 feet on the last hole to post a 1-shot victory over guess who? Rory McIlroy, who still can't snap this 9-year drought of winning majors.
You've been around golf for as long as you've been around the tennis, mate. So you've seen guys get to that position and nail it. You've seen guys get to that position and absolutely choke it. Can you tell, Graeme, with a guy walking into the 17th or up the 18th or whether, can you tell whether he's going to be able to do this or not?
Well, I think the key thing was John Ellis, his caddy, was a former tour player and, in fact, played in 2 US Opens. And he did a fantastic job of keeping Wyndham in his routine. Didn't allow him to speed up walking down the fairway, didn't allow him to rush a shot. And on every green, they have this very strange routine they go through before he putts. He lines up over the ball, and his caddy lines up directly behind him.
Yeah.
And they read the line together. Now he can't putt like that; he'll incur a penalty. So what has to happen is the caddy has to step away, and Clark has to step away, and then reset and go. This is to prevent the caddies, from basically doing the putting work for the players. So I think all credit goes to John Ellis, and all credit goes to Clark for taking the confidence of his first PGA Tour win 6 weeks ago. And I think I mentioned last time, in his interview after that victory, he said, "This now proves to me I can play with the top guys and win big events." And 6 weeks later, he delivered. So hats off to him. He's now a US Open champion. That'll never be taken away. It opens doors all over the place for him going forward. 2-year exemption on the PGA Tour, not that he needs it at the moment. It will get him into the British Open, the Masters, and the PGA, I think, for a period of 5 years. And he's now set as a professional golfer, so he can set schedules that suit him and, work out which events are best for him to play.
Graeme, do you only have to win one of these things? I'll ask the same question about a Grand Slam in tennis. Do you only have to climb the mountain once?
Well, you're in an exclusive club if you win one of the 4 majors. It's as simple as that. Now, Nicklaus won 18, Tiger Woods won 15. Brooks Koepka's already got 5. Rory McIlroy's got 4. You join a rarer and a rarer club as, you put them in the bank, but you can live forever off a major win. Ask any golfer in the world, would he turn down one of the 4 majors, and if that was the only major he won? And the answer would be no, they'd take it in a heartbeat. So it puts you in a very exclusive club. And for the Americans to win a US Open, their national Open, is the biggest of them all as far as they're concerned.
Did you like the way that the course played, and was it a true US Open to you? And look, I'll just give you some figures. 37/29/19. I don't know what it was today, but 37 under par first round. That cut to 29 after the second round, 19 after the third round. So you can see what the USPGA was trying to do.
Yeah, the USGA.
UGA.
You're quite... Yeah, sorry, they'd get offended. I like the USGA at the moment. They're doing a good job. But here's the thing. There were people criticising the course for its kind of funky layout, but it had been rebuilt back to how it was designed, almost 100 years ago, obviously with extra lengths added. They made the fairways much wider than they normally make at a traditional US Open, up to, I think, 61 yards wide in the case of the 18th fairway. So it was a different look. But the US Open always comes down to 2 things: holding your nerve and dealing with rock-hard, very, very fast greens under pressure. And they certainly had that today. If you look at McIlroy, Scheffler and Wyndham Clark today, they all shot even par 70s at the business end of the US Open. So I think the course held up at the business end of the championship, and I love the different look, and I love the fact that it was on the West Coast in Los Angeles for only the second time as the US Open played in LA, which is remarkable considering it's America's second biggest city. So I give it a big thumbs up. And personally, I just loved the golf course. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
What did you love about it the most?
Well, it's a different look. It's not just, it's not just here's the tee, here's a bunch of trees, and here's the hole. It had this barranca drain running through the whole property that cut across holes at most awkward places, making you decide whether you want to try and carry it off the tee or lay up short. It had some beautiful holes that, went through S-bends between trees over the barranca and all this sort of stuff. It just wasn't your, as Lee Trevino once said, it just wasn't a cookie-cutter golf course.
Right.
4 par 4s, 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s, and 12 par 4s. Have at it. It's a par 72. This thing wasn't that. It had 5 par 3s. I can't remember a major championship or a championship anywhere that had 5 par 3s and just 3 par 5s. So that made it unique as far as I'm concerned. And just the look of all the holes demanded so many different shots. The USGA said at the start of the week, we want the guys to wear out their clubs, meaning they have to use them all. You don't see PGA Tour players very often hitting 3 irons into greens. And you don't see PGA Tour players often carrying 4 or 5 wedges like some of the players did during this championship. It demanded much more thinking than a regular PGA Tour stop where caddy gives them a yardage and they just hit it. The greens are soft enough generally to hold the ball, and it becomes a putting contest and a birdie contest. This thing wasn't that. And as I said, the 3 top players in the event managed to shoot just even par in the final round.
Do you know what? We've spoken a fair bit over the last couple of days about this, and we've talked nothing about LIV and the PGA. Isn't that great? All of a sudden, that just wasn't an issue. It doesn't seem to be spoken about during this tournament. I wonder why that is. Has it disappeared, or is it just because of this? It was at the LA Country Club and we had other things to chat about?
Well, it was talked about the first day, and then Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, called in with this medical condition. Nobody knows exactly what it was, but it's serious enough for him to step aside for a while. And I don't know what it is, but obviously the pressure of this circumstance didn't help in any way. So people sort of backed off a little bit out of respect for that circumstance. And the players, down to a man, decided, right, this is the US Open, this is a major championship, we're here for one thing, and that is to win the trophy. We're not talking about the PGA Tour. We're not talking about LIV. We're not talking about the Saudi investment fund. We're just here to play golf. And that's exactly what they did. They just didn't engage. And Rory McIlroy, who was the unofficial PGA Tour spokesman for 18 months or 2 years on this, carried the can for all the other players that stayed on the PGA Tour, refused to do press conferences by and large, which is very unusual for him because he knew he would be asked about it and he just didn't want that in his head, while he was trying to pick up his 5th major and, as I said, break the 9-year major drought that he's suffering through at the moment. So that's all good news. Now, moving forward, the US federal government has already instructed the Justice Department to find the documents from this agreement. Other people within the Congress are debating whether the Saudis should be allowed to, in effect, take over a US sport. And there are also questions about the PGA Tour removing a competitor in LIV, which also has monopoly issues and all sorts of other legal issues. So this thing is going to go on forever, and I don't know that we're going to know much more about this agreement for about a year, okay, I would imagine, because at the moment all it is an agreement to make an agreement.
Right.
There are no firm details. And the biggest factor in this whole thing at this stage is the PGA Tour desperately wanted to stop the lawsuits because, depending on who you believe, the Tour had invested $50 million already in legal costs fighting the LIV Tour, and had also dipped into their reserves, and I don't know how much they've dipped into their reserves, but to help tournaments match the prize money levels, i.e. $20 million per tournament, match those levels to satisfy those who stayed on the PGA Tour, who didn't, cash big checks to stroll over and play this shotgun start 3-round rock music and beer tour that the LIV people were trying to say was highly successful. But if you looked at all of their numbers, spectators, sponsors, and TV ratings, it wasn't. So we'll see where all of that goes. But for the time being, I think the PGA Tour and the LIV Tour will play separately, and then maybe sometime next year we'll hear what agreement they've come to, and then we'll find out whether it's legal and the US government allows the PGA Tour to go ahead with a deal with the Saudis.
No one better to talk about these things. Thank you, my friend. And we look forward to catching up during Wimbledon. We still got one more golf major of the year to go as well. Thank you, Graeme.
We certainly have. Thank you, mate.
Always a pleasure. Graeme Agars with us from the LA Country Club, providing just superb coverage and analysis. US Open, ladies and gentlemen.